Well, folks, this episode of the Noble Man Podcast is brought to you by the Manger Build Experience. If you go to that page on the Noble Warriors website, you can learn about how Noble Warriors has been helping men build mangers, life-size and small mangers, tabletop mangers, for a number of years, equipping dads to keep Christ in front of Christmas for their families. So check out the Manger Build Experience on our website, order a small manger kit, or get information about how your church can have a group of men build mangers with their kids and keep Christ in front of Christmas. Well, folks, welcome to another episode of the Noble Man Podcast. I am delighted to have as our guest today, Pastor Carl Peyton. Carl pastors Transformation Church RVA down in the it's off of Iron Bridge Road in Richmond, or in Chesterfield County, but probably a Richmond address, isn't it, Carl?
Yeah, it's where Chesterfield meets Richmond.
Yeah, well, good. Well, welcome to the Noble Warriors Podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. What an honor it is to be here with you. So I grew up actually on the other side of town, New Kent, Williamsburg area.
Okay.
And I met my wife on this side of town. So I drug her to the other side of town when we first got married, youth pastoring, bi-vocational, all of that. And
now, where were you pastoring down there?
So New Kent Christian Center is it's an AG church in New Kent County, Quinton area, right off 64. And so when I started there, they were meeting at Colonial Downs, if you know where Colonial Downs is.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we were at Colonial Downs, then we met in a horse barn for a while. But I kind of helped them get their youth ministry off the ground, and God did some crazy, awesome things there.
That's awesome.
But then we moved back over here on this side of town back in 2017 when I accepted the call to be youth and music here at Southside Baptist.
Well, let's talk about that a bit. And before we started the podcast, I was telling you that I was familiar with the church that you're at when it was known as Southside Baptist Church there. And worked with some guys. There were some good guys there that were trying to get some men's stuff going and helped me with the manger build. One guy donated a table saw so that we could cut wood for the manger build. And so had an affinity with those guys. So tell me the story of you getting called there bi-vocationally, I think, because you were running a lawn care business. And then how did this whole thing evolve?
Yeah. Boy, what a great story. Lots of hills and valleys throughout that, Mike. So I'll just give you the synopsis in that the church at the time was trying to revitalize.
Sure.
In 2016 was my first acquaintance with this church, this group of family now. They were trying to figure out how do we go the other direction. We were down to about 20 or 30 people at the time in a sanctuary that seats 450, 500.
Right.
So, so I came here to do youth and music. Initially, it was like the pastor I served under, one of the most praying men I ever knew, really wanted to see God do a work here. And so I came up under him and said, however I can serve you, let's get after it together. And we tried a Saturday night situation. That didn't work out. And then over some transitions, the church, I kind of come off the back of a couple church splits. They had one like back in the day around the 99, 2000 turn, and then one in 2016 when I got here.
Wow.
So they went from 80 down to about 30 or 40, and then 20 or 30. And then I got here, did youth and music for about a year and 6 months. The other pastor stepped away, and then they asked if I would interim.
All right, hold on. Let me ask you a question. How do you say yes to doing youth and music to a church of 20 to 30 people? Because that takes some courage. How did you talk your wife into that? There's a story there, I believe.
No question. Things were great at New Kent Christian Center. We were having the time of our lives. I was bivocational, and up until a couple years ago, I was bivocational.
Right.
So we had a $700 mortgage payment, Mike. It was great. Little tiny house, but it was $700 a month. I enjoyed my job. I enjoyed youth pastoring. Youth ministry was growing. And when I first met with the pastor and the leaders here, it was a no. We met over the summer of 2016, and they were casting this vision of, hey, if we can just surge the building with youth, then it'll revitalize itself. And I wasn't sure that was going to work or not. So I just told him, yeah, I can help you find the right guy, but I don't think I'm that right guy. And what ended up happening is around October, after telling them no 3 or 4 times.
How did they find you?
So wild. The previous pastor, he was looking for insurance for his personal P&C auto, life, or home insurance. And my father-in-law, who used to be the worship person over at Victory Tabernacle off Geneto Road, was approached by this guy because my father-in-law does insurance. So my father-in-law does insurance. This pastor called him to get insurance and said, well, approached my father-in-law about doing it. And then my father-in-law was like, you should probably call my son-in-law. And so that was the connection. And all
right, I have to ask another question. This may frustrate you, but you said that New Kent Christian Center is the Assemblies of God Church.
Yes.
Victory Tabernacle is independent, charismatic church, I think.
Yeah, Church of God. Yep.
Yeah, Church. Okay, so Church of God.
Yeah.
And now you're going into the world of Baptist churches. So there's a piece of the story there too. I am uncovering all kinds of fun things here.
It's been a fun journey, Mike. I will tell you. So my dad was raised Free Will Baptist. And my dad was raised Free Will Baptist, and my mom was raised Southern Baptist. And when they got married, they went Church of God. They went Pentecostal. I can't make any more sense of it than you. So that's how I was raised. Yeah. And then a few years before I came here to Southside, interesting enough, the Lord had started a theological work in my heart and in my wife's heart around some questions we wrestled with as we grew up in Pentecostal holiness environments around soteriology, or who saves and how does salvation work, and is salvation as fragile as maybe we've been raised to believe it is. So he had started transforming some a love for God's word and with some different lenses before we ever got here. And so it was an interesting connection because we were also on a theological, spiritual journey as well, her and I.
Wow. So God's got you doing all of this. Your father-in-law, who's the insurance guy, gets called by the pastor of the church, and he says, you don't want me, you want my son-in-law. So he introduces Carl Peyton to the leadership at what was then Southside Baptist Church.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so we got here and we got after it. I was working for a landscape company in Glen Allen at the time. My bi-vocational career has been in the green industry. So lawn care, landscaping, commercial, residential, and everything in between. So, we got after it. We served alongside the previous pastor well. Still love him. He still loves us, and we do miss him from time to time, think about him often, because he was the spark, honestly, that really set off the revitalization thoughts and hearts. Do we shut things down here because we were hemorrhaging funds? We have this beautiful building. It was outpacing our ability to finance it, and we're doing funerals. I've done 36 funerals in the last 8 years. So, elderly, senior congregation predominantly with decline and really fixed incomes around here, Mike. So it was hard. Yeah.
So you came in there. When did they, bring you in and confirm you as pastor?
Yeah. So I served as youth music for that year and a half. during that interim process where we were having conversations about, do we shut the doors or do we kind of relook at things? We're set up to be a church of 500, not a church of 30, as far as our documents go and how we do ministry. Do we rework it? What do we do? And honestly, me and my wife, I tell this story often. I was tired. We were both tired. So we thought, maybe I'll just go be the best parking lot attendant at some large church in town, and we'll put our kids, because our kids were the only kids here, except for maybe one or two here and there. So let's go serve at a big church, and I'll take a break. And God sewed our hearts together in a particular way with these seniors, and they said, we want to see what God can do here. He started this in a tent in 1946. Surely he's not done with it yet. And those seniors strapped up, and they said, we want to extend an offer to you to be our pastor if you'll lead us through this. And I said, so me and my wife prayed about it, and we just couldn't envision our lives without these people any longer. So we shouldered up. My very best friends in the world are in their 70s and 80s.
That's awesome.
And I'll be 38 in December, and God was just, His hand was just so evident, Mike. Me and my wife both said, let's give it a go.
All right. So often in situations like this, the old guard, the people who remember that tent, or the children of the people who were in that tent, they say they want to change, and they want to see the church grow, and they want to see the young people come, until they start coming, and until they start making noise and sitting in their seat in the pew, or running their fingers against the walls or whatever. And then you recognize that they really don't want the change.
Sure.
So how has this developed with you and these folks that you have grown to love and they love you? How did they come to agree that this is how we need to move forward?
The best analogy I've used in the past, Mike, has been lots of churches need revitalization.
Sure.
Some of them are yachts or cruise ships.
Right.
And so there's more people on the boat. There's a ton of steer. It takes longer to steer those ships. It just course corrects a lot slower. To put it in another picture, Southside Baptist at the time was in a life raft with a hole in it. And
there you go.
So we only had a handful of people here, 15, 20 people who were engaged, and then 10 or so who were kind of just, let's see how this thing ends up working out. And of those folks, we had to make some quick, almost, I don't know how to put it. We didn't have the time to kind of linger on it. And so they felt the urgency of the moment. And so they were able to make some more urgent decisions quicker. And the trust was built shoulder to shoulder time. Yeah, so this wasn't something where we were showing up on Sundays from 10 to 12 and then Wednesdays from 7 to 9. We were at the hospitals with people. We were in people's homes. We were inviting people in our homes. So people saw us, they knew us, and they knew we loved them. And so that's awesome. That built that level of trust.
Well, and that takes time. I mean, you can't short circuit that. And so you and your wife invested that time. Now, I told you at the beginning I wanted to ask specifically about men. So often in these seasoned churches, these older churches, you've got a matriarchal group that kind of owns a lot of clout and credibility. But I know you are a guy who sees the value of investing in men and discipling men. So talk to me about how it has been to find some men that you can do shoulder time with and you can invest in. Maybe even some guys who've been at the church for a long time but weren't well discipled years ago in the health of the church. So tell me about what you found there and how you're moving forward with investing in men and what difference that's made in the transformation.
Yeah. So when I first got here, we were a kind of deacon-led church governance model. And what we ended up doing and what we came into, and I see this all the time, I know you do too, Mike, it is a situation where men are valued for their service on the building and grounds committee, kind of let's go to work, and then let's let them make some decisions. So there's some decisional value, and then there's some shoulder, like strength value. But the spiritual value of men wasn't something, like you were saying, that they were necessarily being valued for. And so we moved to an elder kind of led, congregation affirmed model, and so we started raising up some men to it was 3 at the time, and the congregation affirmed that. And it was a lot of just meetings in rooms like this. And it kind of goes all the way back to when I first felt the call to ministry, Mike. It was at a little church in Chester, Virginia. And that pastor sensed the call of God in my life. And so what he did was he gave me access and opportunities. So we didn't have a huge men's ministry model we were really operating off of. But I kind of went back to that and said, how can I create access and opportunity for men to be more than just muscle and decision makers, but that their spiritual leadership is integral to what God wants to do here. And their voice in spiritual circles really does matter. So raising up elders was a part of that. Meeting with guys, I'm all week long grabbing coffees, having lunches, and honestly just throwing guys in the ring and giving them opportunity. I didn't have the convenience of let me wait out 3 to 5 years, let this guy get a seminary education, and then we'll give him a shot. No, we did some on the ground OJT, on the job training. We threw them in, and so one of the things I first started doing, I just started putting some guys in the pulpit who weren't me. And now heading into next year, just some of the fruit of that, I've got 5 guys on deck next year who aren't me, and some of these guys have never. I had a guy 2 weeks ago, never preached a sermon in his life, got up there, gave his testimony, tied it to the scriptures, proclaimed Christ, and our church was encouraged.
All right, I love this. This is absolutely spectacular and fun. So you use the term that we raised up some elders. So you're a 38-year-old guy, which is, I mean, you're not 24, but you're a young guy.
At the time.
But you're a young guy compared to some of these guys probably that you're investing in. And so tell me about I get access and opportunity, but when you sit down in a room with those guys, are you studying the book of Mark together? Are you talking, I mean, what is a bit of a roadmap for how you began to raise up elders and bring them to the word and see the word begin to burn a fire in their hearts and their minds, so that they just had a hunger for it and a hunger to share what they were hearing? Yeah,
that started prior to elders. So when we first started April of 2018 with revitalization efforts, the congregation was a bit gospel anemic. So there was just a lot of preaching that was gospel centered, Christ centered, and not just you need to do better. But sometimes I think we can, especially in revitalization circles, there's a lot of, there's so much to do. But the hearts were so wounded and a bit cold, and they loved Jesus. There's no question. But those gospel embers were kind of hanging down at the bottom. So I just from the pulpit, blowing Holy Spirit air onto the embers of those gospel hearts that have been here for
Right.
some of them 70 years. And so over a year's time, so by the time spring of 2019, when we installed elders, they had been gospeled quite a bit there. And then once I got them in the room, we started having a training period as a part of each elders meeting. It was new.
Yeah.
It was new to all of us.
Right.
So some of the format, where's the difference between deacons and elders and all that. But there was a training aspect that we added to the elders meetings that's still there today. Matter of fact, we just finished going over, Herschel York wrote a book, How to Pastor Well.
Okay.
And so we walked through that. It wasn't as much theological as it was more pastoral in nature, like executional pastoral stuff.
So you're teaching them how to be shepherds.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And they still today, like they sometimes they'll even they'll say, I just feel weird calling myself a pastor.
Yeah.
But in the revitalization world, especially being bi-vocational, I could not do it by myself. I needed guys with influence that the congregation trusted more than me.
Right.
The congregation trusted me, but not like the guys they'd known for 30 years.
Right.
And so I needed some trust, and they were so kind to kind of lend to me on their behalf, kind of give me,
Their credibility.
Credibility. Yeah, that's right. They gave me some of their change. John Maxwell would call it change or influence. They kind of credited some of that to me. And so getting those guys around me was huge.
So it's been my experience, and I talk about this frequently, that 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1, qualifications of elders and deacons, in the traditional Baptist church, we don't hear about those passages until it's time to nominate and elect and confirm, generally deacons in the traditional Baptist church. And often we're not trying to build guys up. We're not using that as a syllabus for teaching and training. We're using it as a checklist, and we're looking to see where people are disqualified rather than to build them up to being qualified. So it's been my experience that in a lot of traditional churches, deacons are guys who have just been there for a long time, not necessarily guys who are spiritually mature.
Sure.
So you had to weave up a fine line through how do I take these guys who have been had a position in the church in some cases and walk with them through some more spiritual maturity. And then I'll throw one more thing out. Often these seasoned guys have just heard so often that the pastor is the professional and don't try this at home.
Right.
So for them to recognize that they can do some of that work, it's a paradigm shift, because they're used to, well, I come and listen, I don't go and tell, or I don't have a responsibility for being a herald of the gospel. So tell me a little bit more about what you heard from some of these guys and their aha moments along the way. Maybe, how did that guy react when he stood in the pulpit a couple of weeks ago and preached for the first time? Man, that had to be almost intoxicating to him.
Well, I tell you, he every guy I've asked to get up there and preach, not all of our lay elders are preachers. So one of the difference between an elder and a deacon is the ability to teach. Right.
Yeah.
So when it came to elder nominations, our congregation, after I taught through kind of a bit of a series on church ecclesiology, particularly the offices, they nominated 3 guys. All the guys they nominated were actively teaching classes, had taught classes, and they were teaching Sunday school classes in some sense. None of them had necessarily preached. But I'll tell you 2 stories. One is the guy that preaches he does my last service of the year every year now, currently struggling with his eyesight in the last couple years. To where he can't drive, things like that.
Yeah.
When we first called him up and then got him in the pulpit, one of the things he said, he's in his 70s, his mid-70s. He said, Carl, I've been basically in church my whole life, and I've served in all different capacities.
Yeah.
And I feel more purposed for God's mission today than I ever have in my entire life. I feel like everything is coming together, and he's been my partner really in ministry alongside these other guys for certain. But he's been such an encourager, a faith-filled guy, and a guy I trust in the pulpit. So here's a guy who's retired-ish. He does some insurance stuff. Who's feeling like, man, I'm executing on God's will for my life more today than I feel like I ever have in my whole life. He's
a Caleb who says, "Give me the high ground."
That's right, 100%. And then the guy that a couple weeks ago said the same thing all the guys say, which is, man, I don't think that's me. And I heard a saying 2 days ago, Mike, that totally exemplifies this. And one thing I look for in men that I can bring up is, what was it? Where you can find humility, you can find promotability. Yeah. And so all of these guys that have become elders, and we've sent out elders now, and we've planted guys at churches, and we do pulpit supply. I'm sending my guys out to do pulpit supply, to get reps. All of them have come with a humble heart. So my guy, Brother Daryl, who preached a couple weeks ago, phenomenal job, loves the Lord, but he is a humble brother. And I think that's so important, because once they get up behind the pulpit, the enemy's temptation is going to be, you're something else.
Yeah.
And that pride, such a temptation, let that pride swell up. So where we have found humility, Mike, we have found promotability. And I find when you just give guys opportunities and throw them in the ring, most will rise to the occasion.
Right. I love this whole thing. Even you saying my guys, I'm sending my guys out. I wish more pastors had this sense that I've got a circle of guys that I'm not responsible for necessarily, but I'm running with. We're running together for the gospel, because, man, the whole idea of supply, you can be somewhere else preaching if someone invites you, because you've seen some guys raised up there. And so what the Lord is doing is building a church there that is not based on your personality or your preaching style, but on your humility to invite other people into the circle.
Yeah, and it's been mission critical for us, Mike, because the latest stats are 1 in 4 homes are fatherless. And in this particular zip code where our church sits, 23234, 49% of our kids in North Chesterfield, South Richmond, are being raised by a single parent or a grandparent. Yeah. So this investment in men here the church becomes the only place where many boys and girls are going to see what godly masculinity is modeled as. And I know my kids have had just a plethora of godly grandfathers that they can now look to and say, no, this is what godly marriage looks like. This is what godly men look like. And raising these guys up and giving them opportunity only benefits not only the church health, but the community health, where our guys are going out investing in Meadowbrook football team, all different kinds of stuff. We want people to see what godly men look like.
Well, and let me jump into that. Man, I might have to get you on again, because this is so much fun, and it's so in line with what I would hope that pastors would be thinking about and leaning into. But I had the privilege to go and speak to the JV football team at Meadowbrook a few weeks ago. Yeah. And so some of your seasoned folks were there to hand out the meals. They were loving on those kids. They were dealing with, the logistics of all of that. So that was fun. But then I've seen pictures where I think the football team has come to church there with you guys, right? Yeah. And so you clearly have some relationship with the coaches there. Yeah. And so there is an open door of ministry opportunity that is a solid gold mine. So that's powerful. Yeah,
it's been. We started partnering with FCA And the head coach, Coach Rudd, when he came in 3 years ago, he recognized, hey, we've got to do some culture shift. And I want a teammate in that arena. So I came in as a character coach.
Sure,
which is what they call us now. They don't call us chaplains anymore.
Yeah.
But character coach, and my job is to both coordinate feeding the team physically, but then also spiritually. So they're getting a gospel presentation twice a week. And those guys showed up on Pastor Appreciation Day to love on me. And honestly, it was kind of it turned from pastor appreciation to Meadowbrook football appreciation, because our people just showered love on these young men and these coaches who are investing their lives to try and give these guys a chance to do something with their lives.
Wow. Let me ask you about two paradigm shifts, and I'll put both of them in front of you, and then you can speak to them. The first one that I think about is when you begin to invest in men and invite them to step up and lead.
Yeah.
I've seen cases in revitalization and in entrenched churches where there are some powerful matriarchs that are resistant to that, and it doesn't go well. The men are reluctant to step up. The women are powerful, and so that's an interesting challenge. So how have the ladies in the church responded to your investment in men and their stepping up? And then number two, second paradigm shift is this is probably a church that was lily white for decades.
Yeah.
And now you're investing in the Meadowbrook football team, which is almost 100% minority students.
Correct.
I mean, there were very few non-minority players that were at that dinner that night.
That's right.
And so when they all come in, I mean, there would have been a time several decades ago when that would have been, I mean, you just know you're not doing that, Pastor.
Yeah.
But, so how has the church experienced a culture shift that says, yes, we're going to love our community regardless of who they are, we're going to see Imago Dei, not someone that we don't want to be in fellowship or community with. So two paradigm shifts that are huge in a local church like yours.
Yeah. So you brought up Imago Dei, and I think that is central to it on both fronts. So one, we have taught on a key theological component for us as far as making some of these shifts has been preaching a robust complementarianism where we are from creation, distinct from, but dependent upon one another for ministry. So when it came to, our men weren't absent, they were just few in number. And what we have seen is both as we have preached a kind of, we need men living out God's call on their lives and women living out God's call on their lives, leading out in those different arenas. All of them have risen as we've risen the bar and said, okay, men, we are male-only elders here. And that hasn't been controversial. It wasn't a controversial shift for us, even though the majority of our leaders were women. So we have been seeing both flourish, and that's kind of the litmus test we use. If men and women are both flourishing, then we're getting it right. But if women are diminished or men are diminished, then and that change does take time. They say it takes 7 years to change the culture of an organization or a church, and we're in year 8 now. Yeah, it's taken some time, but we have seen women embrace this and not feel like, oh, we're being robbed of leadership or robbed of opportunity or robbed of influence, but in fact empowered to lead out well in their different arenas. Now, our church was planted, if we're going to be honest, during what a time in Richmond's history called the White Flight. So
leaving the urban environment and moving to the suburbs.
That's right. That's right. So Richmond becoming incredibly diverse, literally spitting distance to my left over here. And then white folks were drifting out into the sticks, and Branches Baptist Church right up the road here said we need start a mission out there in the sticks to reach those who are moving out to the countryside. And so we planted a tent right here as a result of really a racial division.
Sure.
And this has not been foolproof, Mike. We have had folks over the years who haven't been too keen on. We've had some rubs around mixed relationships, so mixed interracial marriages. Some folks kind of feeling some kind of way about that. And then even over the years, as now we have a growingly diverse congregation. The man who spoke 2 weeks ago is a black man, and he
loved it.
And I think that was the first or second black man to step in our pulpit and proclaim the gospel. And I consider that a win. And honestly, we're at the stage now where we didn't get any of that rippled feedback because we've also focused theologically on that Imago Dei, but also that our call and a realization that our community is 50% Hispanic. So we helped plant a Hispanic congregation out back. Who's investing in Hispanic families, Hispanic men. Pastor Oscar's just a warrior for the kingdom back there, and just letting our folks know, hey, here's where we are, and how do we make disciples here? And that means we have had to step into a diverse ministry, a loving ministry. And then even into homelessness and some other different things, food pantry and whatnot, some mercy ministries, because that's what it means for us to make a disciple here. It may be different on the west side of the county. It's going to be different over on the east side of the river. But right here, this is what God has called us to. And our folks have, they've really embraced the gospel well. And they love Jesus, and our football players felt it that Sunday. They formed a tunnel for these young men as they came in the sanctuary and celebrated them, and God bringing them to us. And they heard a gospel message that morning. So very exciting.
And what I love about scenarios like that is your church probably felt like they were blessing those football players, but it's been my experience that the church then experiences an incredible blessing for having lived out the gospel in very visible and tangible ways. And so there is no shortage of grace and blessing to go around when we start doing things like that. And that's it's just beautiful. Well, listen, for the sake of time, man, we'll do this again, but sure. I've got to shut up. But let me ask you one more question. Well, actually, two parts. At some point, you guys changed from Southside Church to Transformation Church RVA. So I want to know just when did that happen, and maybe we'll get more of the story later. And on a given Sunday now, when you started, you were saying 20 to 30 folks, but on a given Sunday now, what does the congregation look like at Transformation Church? So answer those two questions, and then we'll bring it to close.
Yeah, we changed the name as the last step of our revitalization efforts. Typically, the difference between a replant and a revitalization is shutting down one organization completely and restarting is a replant, and a revitalization is kind of interworking within to regain health. Excuse me. When you went across the street, we got a Wawa right across the street.
Yes.
And so as a part of our revitalization, one of the things we were doing is going across the street and asking, hey, what do you know about Southside Baptist across the road? And over a course of about a month, we didn't get one positive feedback.
Yeah.
And in fact, there were negative feedbacks attached to the name Southside Baptist. So our leadership team decided to change the name, and it had two implications. One, it let the community know something different was going on here.
Right.
And they could kind of ditch the baggage that came with the name. But internally, it allowed our leaders it freed them up to say, you know what, we don't have to do things the Southside Baptist way.
Right.
We can do things the Transformation way. And it freed them up internally. And so that we made that change in 2019. And interesting attendance statistics. So Easter 2018, we had 50. people. That was our big double Easter attendance. And then 2019, we had 275. And then Easter 2020, Mike, we had 0. We were shut down. We were shut down. So it's been an incredible roller coaster. This past Sunday, we had 150. So we're averaging about 150. And we have 3 or 4 different nations that are present on a given Sunday morning. More men are showing up. And a lot of that has also been, we've been reinvesting in men's discipleship on a small group level. I will tell you, Noble Warriors connected us with BetterMan material. And that is something, we actually have a BetterMan group going on right now. And our team uses, all that discipleship material currently in our men's ministry, and it's making huge leaps and bounds.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, it just makes me think about 2 Corinthians 5:17. Behold, if any man is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. And so that is speaking to specifically about a human and individual, but God is in the business of transforming churches as well, and that's surely what he has done in the Bride of Christ there that is now called Transformation Church RVA. So, Carl, thanks so much for your willingness to visit with me this morning and for the blessing that this conversation has been to so many folks. Give us a website of Transformation so that we can get in touch if folks want to reach out to you directly or visit your church.
Yeah. So we're 6000 Iron Bridge Road, 23234. Our website is transformationrva.com. We have an app too, and the Transformation Church RVA.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, friend. Thank you so much for being with us. And folks, this is going to be the end of this episode of the Noble Man podcast, man. This has been a fun conversation, and we hit on some great topics, and so I promise you I will do this with Carl again because there's much more to dive into about how his men are being raised up, and he's investing in these guys who are now leading other men, and that's just going to multiply the kingdom. I love it. Bill Bright used to say there's no end to the amount of money that God will put into a man's hands who does not hold on to it. And if Pastor Carl is not going to hold on to the authority or the pulpit too tightly or any of that stuff, and he's going to share those opportunities with other men, God is multiplying that, and we praise him for it. So great fun. Well, God bless you, Carl. Thanks for joining us, guys. Jump back in again with us next time for another episode of the Noble Man Podcast. Thanks so much. Mike.